Today, I'm going to show you how we integrate with our technology into Excel. Our technology can talk to any technology in the world, any of your visualization tools, but Excel is the biggest business tool in the world with 1 billion active users. How do we get data from a centralized, multi-dimensional calculation engine into Excel? Well, we want to mimic some of Excel's really awesome functionality, which is pivot table, right? For those of us who've been accountants for over 30 years, pivot table has been a go-to tool when managing big data. And what we did by design, we kept our functionality very similar to pivot table. And the reason for that is it allows the user to adopt this technology really quickly. And that can be really important when we're rolling out new enterprise level software. So what I'm going to do today is very, very simply compare Excel's pivot table functionality with PowerExcel's slice functionality. And what you're going to see is it's very similar. But what we've managed to do is we've managed to eliminate some of those challenges you have with Excel's pivot, and therefore this becomes a really powerful tool. So let's have a look what that looks like. Okay, so I'm going to compare and contrast Excel's native pivot table functionality with PowerExcel's slice functionality. Now, by design, they are very similar, and that's because Excel's pivot table functionality is pretty cool, and we want to mimic that. But also, it means that if you adopt our technology, you'll find it much easier to implement because your users already have this familiarity with this feel of a pivot table. All right, let's have a look at it. So what have I got here? Well, I've already exported our accounting data here into Excel. On this side, where I'm going to put pivot, and on this side, it's blank, where I'm going to use PowerExcel. Let's start with PowerExcel. I'm going to ask for a new slice. It pops up a sidebar, same as pivot table. Choose my database, choose my cube, and I'm going to take all the default settings and just insert. All right. Now, you can see I've got filter here, same as you'd get in a pivot table. If I double click on that, I get a little graphic user interface. The syntax is simple. Here's all the things I could filter on. This is what I am filtering on. And all I got to do is move from left to right. I can use drag, and I can use shortcuts. Click the checkbox, and we're good to go. Now let's have a look at it tiled up, and I'm going to do it. No, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll tile that quickly, but let's just maximize this one and go for pivot. So here, Excel insert, pivot table, new workbook, and you see straight away I've got the sidebar. It's very familiar or very similar to PowerExcel. And I just need to decide again which is in rows and columns and which are in filters. If I select those right product in the right region, and tile these up, we should see some similar data, right? Now, first of all, we see straight away that the sorting was different, okay? Now, the reason for that is the sorting that comes out in PowerExcel is defined by the central database, and in pivot table is defined by custom lists or alphabetical. So manually drag, and we have the data in the same place. The second thing we notice is that gross profit here, I have gross profit as a subtraction, and I have Q1 as a sum. I haven't defined Q1 on purpose just to show you how you do it. So first of all, I'm going to turn off these grand totals here, and then I'm going to define Q1, and I'm going to define gross profit and gross profit percent. So let's do that quickly in pivot. And I need to add a new element of account and a new element. All right, so here I've defined gross profit percent, and Q1. And I'm going to show you how I would define Q1 in our technology. So you would go to the central database as the administrator. You would have your January, February, March Q1, and you would actually use a graphic display. So you'd put Q1 here in the middle, and then you drag these and just put them under. So it's really nice and quickly, and you can see Q1 is just the sum. It's created that sigma sign to remind you the sum of all of those. And I'm just going to go to the account to show you the subtraction very quickly. I've already defined it. But if you look at a subtraction, then it's the same idea. You put sales and cost of sales underneath, but you just make cost of sales have a weighting of -1. Very, very simple. Okay, let's go back into Excel and see what we got now. So, and let me tile them up so you can see them next to each other. We've got very similar functionality. We've got these ability to filter, Jan to March Q1, Jan to March Q1. We've got the gross profit all working, and we've got the gross profit percent. But there is one problem, this one. This gross profit percent calculated incorrectly. It did a sum instead of recalculating at that level. And that's a problem in Pivot. It's not something that's easily solved. It's a shortcoming. And it's just because the language is not totally a multidimensional language, so you don't know, you can't turn on and off this ability to sum up. So it's a little bit tricky. It's much easier to do it in our technology. All right. I'm going to show you how that would work in our technology. So inside of the cube, very similar, gross profit percent is equal to gross profit divided by sales. It's exactly the same. The difference is, and I just put this out of view for you, I have this opportunity to tell it to calculate everywhere, or if I say details, check my syntax. Now I'll get the same as the pivot table. I'll get that incorrect number. And because I'm able to just simply with a tiny little bit of different syntax, I can change it and make it work perfectly. So that's the difference between having a really, a well thought out multi-dimensional calculation language. All right, what else can I do inside of PowerExcel that you can't do in Pivot? So let's have a look at stacking this dimension on its side. So let's say I decide to bring the regions down above the rows. Again, you see I'm just using left click and drag, and that's what I was hoping to get. You know, I've got Durban to Joburg and total region. If I do the same here, and I bring up the sidebar, and I bring the region down top of the accounts, I don't get exactly what I wanted there, so now I need to change. I'm just going to maximize so I can get to the ribbon a little bit. I need to change the design. I need to go to tabular form, and I'm getting something that's similar to what I saw there, right? But if I look at it, I don't have a total region. So potentially I'm thinking, well, what if I turn on these grand totals? Maybe I could get a total region here. So let's see. I added the grand total, but it didn't give me what I was hoping for. So this is one of the challenges with pivot table. Those of you that use it a lot know this problem. It's hard to get aggregates or subtotals and details together in a nice way. That's already solved in PowerExcel. All right, finally, in PowerExcel, you can turn off and manage the ability to write back to the database. Now, I may not want anyone to write back when I'm looking at historic actual data out of an ERP system, so that would not be available. But if I'm using the same tool to share data in a planning sense, then I want people to be able to update data in the pivot table and for it to all work. So for example, here, if this was planning data in March, I put a big number in, you see how it updates everything, including my total region, my Q1, and my gross profit percent. Here, if I try and do something similar, it won't let me, right? When I updated this data in my PowerExcel, it updated it into the central database, which means that everybody connected to the database had that same data. That's really efficient, whereas I potentially have got, depending on how I do this, this could be like a once-off data set, which means that could be that my data becomes outdated quite quickly with my pivot. So one of the risks with pivot is that the data can get outdated pretty quickly. And it's one of the challenges that we have in accounting where, you know, you're in a meeting and people say that number doesn't look right, and it's because you didn't pick the latest data set. You avoid that if you use PowerExcel. Okay, one of the last things I'm going to show you is just the simple idea that you have a lot more flexibility in terms of your formatting here. We all know that pivot table has some limits to formatting, but with PowerExcel you can do so much. You can insert rows wherever you want, you can insert columns, and many, many more formatting opportunities. And all of this will still maintain with the filtering opportunity. So here I'm in VES. If I change that to total product, all of this data updates. So in summary then, we've got very similar functionality to pivot table. Users will find it very easy to adopt this technology, but we've solved a lot of the shortcomings of pivot tables so that you can genuinely use it as an enterprise-ready tool.